It's a rainy Tuesday evening. You've just spent the last few hours slaving away at a shitty retail job you despise, and no, I'm not just projecting here. You've just come home and you're sat there staring at your Steam library. This is the only time you have to play the games you've told yourself you were gonna finish. Yet all you do is scroll through the huge list for a solid 3 minutes and then just close the Steam app to open up YouTube and scroll for another hour wondering what to watch, thinking about the fact you could be playing a game right now. That is, until you find this video called "You Will Never Finish Your Backlog" and you decide to open it. You will never finish your backlog, and it's something you need to accept now. No matter what you try and do, your backlog will never be finished. You can try and organize it into a spreadsheet or some shit like you're in some dead-end office job and calculate the time it'd take you to finish every game, and then dedicate certain times within the day to playing them. Well, that's if you don't consider the multitude of random ass things that could pop up during those days. Something tragic could happen that you need to be there for. And you can't exactly say that you can't because you're busy trying to beat Wanking Simulator because it's been in your backlog for years, ever since your friend bought you it as a birthday present for a joke. Fucker tried buying me Cuckold Simulator too. There are just too many games in the world to play. I completely understand why some people just stick to multiplayer games that make them miserable. This shit can be insanely overwhelming.
Why isn't this working?
Your backlog just never stops growing. No matter who you are, you cannot deny the fact that you can't resist a good game sale. I know you tell yourself every night before one that you're not going to add on to your backlog by buying more games. Then you accidentally spot Resident Evil 18 Testicular Torsion Chronicles on sale for 90% off, and you just can't resist buying it. Adding it to your backlog alongside Like a Dragon 90, Naked Kiryu, and Cuckold Simulator 2. I've caught myself doing this. I mean, how can you possibly physically resist? I think the only way I'd be able to stop myself from buying games in a sale is if I drained my entire bank account of all of its money, so I literally couldn't buy anything. Over the Christmas period, Steam throws a winter sale, which is usually pretty huge, and without fail, every year I buy way too many games during it. And this year specifically, I added like 10 extra games to my backlog, which doesn't include games that were bought for me as gifts. Those games were Outriders, Battlefield Hardline, Blacktail, Lies of P, A Plague Tale Requiem, The Sinking City. Listen, I could literally just go on and on at this point. I have over 100 games in my backlog, and some of them have been sitting there for years just festering. I even made a section in my library years ago from one of the winter sales of games I got, and I'm gonna circle the games I actually finished here. This was from 2019. That's not even mentioning Persona 5 Royal, which is gonna be sat in there for a long ass time. How the fuck do people have the time to play that game? Oh, I also have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth sat in there too, which the director himself said is the biggest Yakuza game yet, and you'd get physically ill if you tried playing it in one sitting. Better get a hospital bed reserved and ready for my ass then. Eventually you end up amassing such a big library of unplayed games, and you feel overwhelmed by the choice. You don't know what game to start with. Even with your spreadsheet showing you how many hours on average it takes to finish every game, you still can't decide what to play first, ultimately wasting time that could be spent chipping away at your backlog, which in turn makes you feel worse, ending in you feeling pretty burnt out. The list of games eventually starts looking like a list of chores instead, feeling like work when games were supposed to be the things you played to relax after doing such a thing. Something that puts you off is the crisis of the fact there isn't enough time in the world to play every single game you want to get through, leading to you rushing the games to get to the next one, which ruins the experience for most of them. You rushing through a game could cause all kinds of problems. You could be underleveled for a certain boss fight, creating frustration by the fact that you keep getting killed by them constantly, wasting more time. It could also make you miss cool side missions or events because you're just beelining the main story so you can get to the next game, ultimately making you lose out on what could have been an amazing experience. Doing this shit to yourself is more than likely what's causing you to burn out on playing games, ruining what once was your favorite hobby. In fact, this is exactly what happened to me. Playing games became a chore rather than a fun pastime because I knew for a fact I could never get through my behemoth backlog before the day I die. This isn't the case for me anymore though. I mean, you've seen my backlog series, which is a series you should definitely check out, by the way. This is a shameless plug. The way I got past this backlog burnout was accepting the fact that I can't finish every game in my backlog. My backlog is always gonna be there, and that's okay. Accepting this completely turned my feelings on its head. I went from hating my backlog to loving the fact it exists and it's still growing. With this mindset, I feel comfortable going through games at my own pace. If it's a huge ass game, like say a Yakuza game, I'll take my time taking in the sights and just enjoying the story. And I'm able to do this without this looming dread hovering over me saying, you spent a lot of time on this game when you could have finished like 3 games in your backlog during this time. For example, I played Lost Judgment recently, along with the Kaito Files DLC expansion, and it took me exactly 36.4 hours to complete. The whole time I was making sure to do as much side stuff as I could, no matter how stupid it was, and it ultimately made the game a much better experience for me. I felt like I bonded with the main character Yagami, experiencing all of this wacky ass shit with him, which made the emotional story moments that much more impactful. If I had just beelined the story, I wouldn't have really cared about any of this shit. Hell, I probably wouldn't even have played the Kaito Files DLC either, because I would have been burnt out from rushing the story, hoping to get to another backlog game. Sorry, I kinda went on a little ramble about Lost Judgment. It's a good game and you should definitely play it yourself. Obviously play the original Judgment first, which is another game that took me a while to complete. With the mindset of knowing I'll never finish all of the games in my backlog, I no longer feel bad for replaying some of my favorite games anymore too. I no longer feel like I'm just wasting time for just having fun playing games I want to play, which is what they're there for to begin with. I cannot tell you how many times I've played through The Evil Within. To put it in perspective, the game is one that should take the average person about 10 to 15 hours to complete. Then there's me, with over 100 hours in the game. I don't feel the slightest bit bad about it either. Having this mindset turns the backlog from a massive burden to an infinite source of entertainment for you to pick away at when you're bored. So yeah, you will never finish your gaming backlog, and that's a good thing. Watch my backlog series.